that legacy because that's embedded in who we are and why we do the work that we do. It's uh, it's the National Sexual Assault Prevention Month of April. It's also and most appropriate the Child Abuse Awareness Month. But including that, this week is the National Victims of Crime Week. And something that we always have to do here on Navajo Nation is enhance the voices of those families who are left behind to grieve and to suffer through the trauma when they have a relative that is violently taken from them. And so that's when we walk and we say our prayers. That's where we're coming from today. So she kia ani nishle do bilagana bashishin deschini deshe do bilagana deshanale she amber canis bakradi yanishia to hatsoi de natsha. I represent Sheep Springs, Two Gray Hills, Tolina, Sonosti, Red Valley, Cove, Gadiai, and Biklabato. It's a large district on the northern agency, but as every leadership, we represent all of our Navajo people here at home within our four sacred mountains, in the urban areas, going to school, working, and our military families who are serving either at the bases or internationally. When we place our offerings and our prayers, it's to those families that we hope they hear the vibration of our blessings and of our prayers for healing and coming together. So on the Navajo Nation Council, I'm the chairwoman of the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee. This is a subcommittee that should not be in existence. And why? Because we shouldn't have sexual assault here on Navajo Nation. We should have to have conversations on what's appropriate, what type of behavior is appropriate, and what does it mean when you violate someone's body and how you're ripping them apart, not only physically, but mentally. And so when we see our relatives out there who are dealing with their trauma, numbing their pain with alcohol, with substance abuse, sometimes our first reaction is, why don't they just get their life together? Why don't they make better decisions? And what I'm thinking is, why didn't someone help them? Why didn't someone believe them? Why didn't someone why didn't someone offer them resources so that they could heal and go through that? And for those who are able, what we call working alcoholics, working substance abuse members, we also need to be a little say you need to get the healing that you deserve and the healing that you need, so that when you have your children and you become a grandparent and they look up to you as an ancestor, you're a healed person. Because trauma will continue to speak. You may think you're suppressing it, but it comes out in anger. It comes out in gossip. It comes out in everything it's a negative energy in the world. And our children are susceptible to that. They feel that. So when we talk about school bullying, that child learned that behavior from somewhere. When we talk about sexual assault and incest, that person learned that behavior from somewhere. And we also talk a lot about stranger danger. And yes, strangers out there can be dangerous. But when we look at the data and tell the story, it's folks we know. It's either someone who's been in the home, someone who knows a relative, or someone who's taking care of your child. And so that's important as a parent, and why we do the prevention work, and why we have to amplify the voice so that we bring healing into our communities, and not just looking here to Window Rock for the solutions, but son is telling our mothers, our aunties, our uncles, our daddies to say, you have to protect your child. You have to be engaged. We know you're going through your own pain. And if you don't go through your own pain and start your healing journey, then you won't be able to recognize what your child is going through. And so I think when we talk about these very hard conversations, we've lost too much here on Navajo Nation. We've lost children to violence. And the work that the subcommittee does is in honor of Ashen Mike. It's in honor of knowing that she was plucked from her homestead. She was taken. She was brutalized. and her family wants justice. And it doesn't end with a court date. It doesn't end with a sentencing, because that family still needs to heal. And they still want answers, and they want prevention. And so that's why Navajo Nation leadership continues to come together. And so I appreciate the delegates who are on the subcommittee. We have Vice Chair Nathaniel Brown, Delegate Vince James, Delegate Eugene So, Delegate Wilson Stewart Jr., and Delegate Paul Begay. And collectively, we represent all different directions of the Navajo Nation. We represent all of the committees that have oversight. And I want to thank my colleagues, because it's not the easiest committee to sit on, to hear what is happening in your community, and to know that there is no hotspots. There is no one area that we can gather to do prevention work. That when we talk about child sexual assault, it's prevalent across Navajo Nation. It's a data point that is not decreasing, and it's everywhere. And so we'll continue to come together and support and recognize our advocates who are doing the work on the ground. Most of the time volunteer. During COVID, there was no rest for them. And so we worked together with some of the nonprofits, with some of the relief efforts, to make sure they had PPE while they were transporting victims to either to get medical care, to get counseling, to make sure that they were safe. And also for those medical providers. Here on Navajo Nation, we have Indian Health Service, our federal partners, but we have 638 tribal organizations. And so we need to make sure as a nation that all of those entities provide sexual assault examinations. Time is critical when it comes to these cases. It matters when there's a medical exam, it matters who does the exam, and it matters to the courts on how to preserve that evidence. And so one thing that we're looking at is all of the rape kits that are going to Quantico. How can we make sure as a nation that they're being processed? How can we make sure as a nation that we do not have serial rapists here? How can we make sure as a nation that individuals who have received that examination, that their evidence is preserved? And when we talk about child sexual assault, that we need more than just one pediatrician here on Navajo to do these exams. We do not need to send our children out to Flagstaff or to Albuquerque. That re-traumatizes them. And in our effort, we're looking at a child advocacy center, a place of healing, a place where a family can come to and tell their story, but just once, not again and again, not to Navajo Nation, not to the federal government, not just to the courts, but that they have advocates who can take care of our children, recognize that their mind is very fragile, and that they did not do this, and that they are our superheroes, they are our warriors, and that they are battling these monsters, and that we're here with them to help them. And so we cannot do this work alone. And so I appreciate President Jonathan Nez, Vice President Myron Lizer, First Lady Perfilia, and Second Lady Dottie for helping in understanding what's happening. There is so much happening when it comes to our families that it's not just going to be one delegate or one committee or one council or one president administration. It has to take the Navajo people to stand up and say, this is an expectation we want from our leadership. We want not only the advocacy, we need the funding, we need to support our law enforcement, we need to support training in the schools, because that's where we're seeing a majority of our reports when there's a suspected child abuse or neglect case. We also need to support our detention centers and our rehabilitation, because right now when there are sexual offenders who return, who have done their time and return, they're in the communities. And what we're hearing from law enforcement is sometimes they don't report. And when they don't report, they get a slap on the wrist. And what they really should be doing is law enforcement is making sure that our communities are safe. We have a right as Navajo people to know if there's a sexual offender in our community, if we're working with the sexual offender, or if they are then violated their rights to be here. It's a privilege to be free. It's a privilege to be amongst our family members, and we're no longer going to allow our children, our women, and our men to be targeted. As we talk about this, we now know, and what we're averaging is about 1 in 6 Navajo men have been sexually assaulted. We know that. But what we're not seeing is either the prosecution, the conviction, or those offenders being picked up. Why? Because those offenders know that the shame, the blame, and the humiliation is too much to bear for that individual to go seek help. And so what I'm asking our Navajo Nation leadership, with the men of the council, Navajo Nation men leadership, to reach out to your brothers, reach out to your comrades, reach out to anyone that's involved and have conversations. We call them bro conversations. And we don't expect you to say like, hey, have you been touched? But we expect you to say, hey, how you doing, bro? What's going on? How can I help? Let's do this together. Healing doesn't always mean you disclose. Healing can also mean that you have someone there who will believe you. You have someone there who will rely on you. And that you know that you're supported. And so that's what we see when we talk about our missing and murdered Diné relatives. We know that we have more Navajo men who are missing. And as families continue to disclose, and it's very painful to disclose and say that your relative is missing, but we encourage it. And you have to be courageous to have these conversations, because that's what healing takes. You have to sit in the pain, because later on you'll see that victory, you'll see that hope, and you'll see that a new life filled with so many opportunities. And so with that being said, I appreciate President Nez and my colleagues for being here. I just wanted to Speaker, if you want to just briefly, Speaker, come up and just introduce yourself. Speaker has been a longtime supporter of the work that we're doing, and helps, because there's times that I simply can't go on when I hear some of the stories that happen to our children. And so I rely on my colleagues, and I rely on Speaker and his staff to help. And so I just appreciate that. So Speaker, you can just give us a few words, and then we're going to have President speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Yate Bene. Good morning to everyone listening in, not only here that are the limited members of the press and the staff members that are here today present, but everyone that's listening out there in the World Wide Web. Good morning to everyone across all listening in within the Four Sacred Mountains, listening in outside the Four Sacred Mountains, to all our relatives across the world who are listening in across the big water. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Today's a monumentalist day. It's a beautiful day here in Window Rock, Arizona, and I just want to say thank you, Madam Chair. If you did not understand the compassion, the leadership, the mentorship, not only to myself but to many of her colleagues, the understanding and the courageous justice and support that she has brought to the light of sexual assault prevention across the Navajo Nation. It is monumentalist work within not only the Navajo Nation but across Indian country. Madam Chair Amber Crotty has brought together many individuals, leaders from across this country, not only here in the United States, but throughout the indigenous worlds and communities, to make sure that, one, our children are protected, two, our men are protected, our ladies are protected, and also our elders are protected from something that is stagnant our country, across the nation, across the world, that is not talked about. And I seen that compassion, that leadership, when I first served with her in the 23rd Navajo Nation Council, and I'm bringing it on to the 24th Navajo Nation Council. if we don't have somebody like Madam Chair Amber Crotty, who has brought together to the forefront understanding growth, and not only just the simple honesty of asking these simple questions amongst my peers, actually having a discussion like this in the chambers, actually having a discussion like this in public, that is something hard enough for itself. Just to know that you can talk about something like sexual assault, to talk about something that might have been created, might have been done in the past, you might not know how to deal with. Opportunity that Mr. Amber Crotty has brought to the forefront has enlightened so many individuals and brought so many hope to new members of not only this community within the Navajo Nation, but has opened up so many doors for federal opportunities to help out our Navajo people, our people across the world that want to know that there is an opportunity for healing. And I just thank you to President, Vice President. Thank you very much for being here with us, with your advocacy as well, in the aspirations, working not only with our past president, Trump, and his team in creating that goal to understanding what we need to do within Indian country to press forward. I think is a huge responsibility of what we need to do. The advocacy that started with not only Ashley and Mike, but before that, many of us, our parents, our grandparents, who have been traumatized by this, that continue to not know what even sexual assault is. And through their time at boarding schools, through their time growing up away from these programs, or with their foster programs that were sent off, numerous of our relatives were sent off in these foster programs in the 40s, 50s, all the way up into the 90s, and even today. And all those kids have been, you were all a kid at once. And if there was something that was done to you, just know that there is hope, there's help, and there's an opportunity for you to know that there's healing processes. And it might not just be through prayer, it might not just be through talking, it might just be through the simple organization of accepting what might have been done. But just know that through the advocacy of not only Madam Chair Amber Crotty and the 24th Navajo Nation Council Sexual Assault Prevention Program, the committee has laid down the groundwork working with the Office of President and Vice President to really hone down. And I think that's something that we can all say thank you for the excellent leadership from the Navajo Nation that has brought this forefront discussion to the table, even at our dinner tables, at the tables when I talked to my grandparents about this. And it's something that I was always said, no, we don't need to talk about that. But it's something that still needs to be brought to the light. So thank you very much to everybody listening in. And if there's an opportunity for you to talk to somebody, there's opportunities there in your local communities and the local shelters, reaching out to local leadership and reaching out just to even your family or friends. That might be the best thing to do. So again, thank you very much for everyone to take this opportunity today, and thank you very much for being here this morning to press forth and continue on this advocacy that needs more dialogue, that needs more discussion, and an open opportunity to make sure that we all one day say that this is something that's going to be accepted in our homes, this discussion of how we need to prevent this moving forward across our great country. And when you hear these numbers that Madam Chair Amber Crotty talks about, we need to make sure that this advocacy moves forward, and so we can stop this across not only the Navajo Nation, but across the whole indigenous world. So again, thank you very much, Madam Chair Amber Crotty, for your tireless efforts and everything that you're doing to organize events like this, but also maintaining the leadership and role that you do, Madam Chair. also to the Sexual Assault Prevention Committee. And then, Madam First Lady, thank you very much for your national leadership too, as well in this, Mr. President. President.
Thank you, Speaker, and everyone that's here, and those that are online. Good morning. Today is the start of the Navajo Nation Council Spring Session, and I too want to say thank you to the leadership of Delegate Kanazba Kradi as she did the walk with her team to the nation's capital this morning. Due to social distancing, I know many of our Navajo citizens wanted to be a part of that walk, but because of this pandemic, we're not able to do things like we used to in large gatherings, and that is the reason we are on the World Wide Web. So nhidini do les ade nalgi do da isunoltsagi shiko deje shin slindo tnesani ibashchin tkodicini ida shichiro tkachini ida shanala aro bilina shinigido feel nes ida ka ishin hich atito lesdina shiko do o he nhidini do les shananta lan kha da dagi Speaker Seth Neiman do Senado Paul Bigay do Bishpas Annosleni Delegate Cry do AAC ado nakasazon do ni mado ni we do san dan linigi in khayalti o khota ba khoni zi do khota benahat nakha alchinda no linigi do anin da khaygi edo nakha yalti o khota bananish anayil ito ahot ya benhat do bilinash inigido kdo fefilianes ishido he bedini do le jo kdo nakhayalt kenda hado tle to hajon da hado tle no ahot ya sad be yelt sashi kon an hitenda hasti hagan has ad alchinda tidal now da ahot adahon ni lota la she to ba yada tidan dan hit nind jo kondi che ni che aschan delna jo kenda hadot le to jon da hadot le khal chinba win dono ebni na khodo be yelt shkedo shidna so khodo ni jo ba in shkedo le I just also want to say to the leadership here at the 24th Navajo Nation Council, appreciate the advocacy. Today we're recognizing sexual assault awareness this entire month, as well as disability awareness. And, many of the items that are being recognized this month is dear to all of us as leaders, and to push back on these modern day monsters is what we've been talking about thus far. And I know that there will be a plan that will bring all our resources together, called an action plan, so that we are all on the same page, if you may, meaning that all the divisions protecting our families, our moms, our aunties, our sisters, our relatives, our women. And I just want to also honor this day a very good friend, mentor, leader, in which we will be laying him to rest tomorrow, Delegate Nelson Bigay. As you've heard him before say, he would pray not just for the nation, but also for the women nation. And his advocacy will be remembered, and we build upon his memory, that we recognize that women are an intricate part of our society here on the Navajo Nation. And so today I honor our former delegate and other former delegates that have spoke many times on these topics. The other item I want to say to each and every one of you is what was brought up by the speaker as well. You know, people will say this is taboo. You know, things that are happening at home should be the business of the family. But there are people that don't have the resources or the ability to let folks know, especially of a home that's in disharmony. And it's okay to speak out and let the folks know if you are being mistreated. Now, as we are talking about help, there is assistance out there. You know, I want to say thank you to the Division or Department of Behavioral Mental Health Services, who has resources available for those that want to utilize those resources. You know, with the help of Yvonne Key Billison and many others, developing a mental health task force here. Having a time to reflect and to remind ourselves that there are support out there within our Navajo Nation. Hajom Mondays was one that Delegate Crotty, myself, and the First Lady and the Vice President and Second Lady were part of. And that's helping heal our people through these difficult times. And there is help, ladies and gentlemen. And I know the hard part is to ask for help. But let me just let you all know that help is available for each and every one of you. So, Sheo konso ni hicha hasti do le shikero shidna ade tani kinalki do kon da isanol tsagi. Ado he la hada inol do kon shi e ya ni he lajet da nes dagi ya le kai an Washington. Yel ina in inigi Nkhayga Jinda Nashuna do anda inisho. Asian Kodo Nash English Sanfophilia. Do Kodo Behada out Ze Asian Kodo which Ashana Ileto Do Kodo do Hinata Delegate Amber Crotty. Jo out Kanicha do Nisho Akon Hikani Hidna. Vakadi Chadog and Dahadotle, Lojon Dahadotle, not out to Dilzen. So here, and I just want to end by just saying that, you know, as many of you know, the First Lady of the United States will be coming here on Thursday and Friday. And many of the topics, many of the priorities of Navajo people will be shared with her, because she does have the ear of the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden. And so Dr. Jill Biden will be coming here to visit some schools, to visit some healthcare facilities. And I want to say thank you to everyone out there for following through on these very tough protocols. I know it's nice and warm. We want to travel. We want to get out, but we are still in the midst of a pandemic. But because of you, Navajo people, the past, I think 7-8 days, we have had no deaths here on the Navajo Nation. Praise God to that. And very low numbers in our community. And that's because of each and every one of the Navajo citizens who are abiding by these protocols that are in place. Let's continue to do that. Let's continue to mask up. Let's continue to wash our hands with soap and water and social distance and stay at home as much as we can. And that is one of the reasons why this administration is interested on how the Navajo Nation has done in pushing back on this virus. And I always say it's really no secret, right? It's the teaching that has been handed down from generations. That teaching of being respectful, and to listen to protocols. Wearing a mask shouldn't be a political statement. Staying at home shouldn't be about politics. It's about the health and well-being of our Navajo citizens, about greater good, about helping your family members, your neighbors, your community, and your people. And that's what the Navajo people have done. And I commend each and every one of you as we welcome the First Lady of the United States of America this Thursday and Friday. We look forward to many more visits from the Biden-Harris administration. And, you know, this is not the first time Dr. Jill Biden has been here. This is going to be her third time. She did the NTU graduation as the second lady. And in between second lady and being the first lady, she came to Tuba City and met with the second lady at the time, my wife, now being the first lady, to kick off the new cancer treatment facility in Tuba City. And a lot of discussion will happen. I know it's a short time, but I'm sure many of these items will be brought to her attention, and there will be a roundtable discussion. I'll let the first lady, Ophelia Nez, talk more about that. But thank you so much, everyone. And I just want to also introduce the First Lady of the Navajo Nation, Ophelia Nez. Thank you.
Good morning, Yate. Shaya Ophelia Nez, Ginishia, Trabahanishlant, Lizatlana Bashishina, Kaidina Dashinaldo Dashiche. You know, this month, as mentioned by Council Delegate Crotty, is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and then it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And it's so important to bring awareness of these two topics to every sector in our society. So on the Navajo Nation, that means in schools, in hospitals, in the workplace, at home, just in every area that we all go to, whether it's as parents, grandparents, as children, as students. It's an important topic because of the prevalence of it. And sexual assault, sexual abuse, all of that, you know, it encompasses a lot more categories than just two items. And because of everything we've endured as Indigenous peoples throughout, you know, the past century, throughout the past decades, it has affected people individually and as families and as communities over the years. And we know that we've not readily had support services available for people to go to get into the process of restoration and healing from some of these situations they've been in, from things that they've experienced. And trauma situations are always something that's worked on lifelong. It's not an easy fix, but we're here to say, just as President said, you know, this is out. We are all aware of these things that happen, but we also want to be in the business of providing more services. So that's really the message that we're here to bring to you this morning. But in the role of First Lady and just being a member of the New Mexico MMIW Task Force, and then also being the co-chair of the OPVP work group to restore families. You know, you hear about all things that happen, all the negative things that can impact family members and homes, but there's always hope. And, you know, children can endure a lot, but they're also very resilient. You know, the resilience is there if you can intervene quickly and at an early stage. So that's something that we can always remember. If we remember that, that should be the, you know, the foundation of why there's always hope. And so, and then also being on First Things First, Navajo Regional Partnership Council. You know, we always talk about conception to the first 8 years of life. And any personnel that you meet in the criminal justice system, whether it's in law enforcement, whether it's in the courts, whether it's in the correctional facilities, they're always going to tell you that anybody who gets involved in a criminal justice system, you just have to look back to how they grew up, how their home environment was between those ages in childhood. You know, that really does determine the outcome of their lives. And so if we can intervene at an early age for our young people, that will set their trajectory in life on a more positive path. And that, it puts a focus on our parenting skills, on our home environment. And that's why I always talk about we need to teach our children the importance of what marriage means. What does it mean to prepare yourselves for being a mom, for being a dad? What does it encompass when we talk about building a positive and loving home environment? Having shelter, having the means to provide for them, not just monetarily, but also emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. And that's why we say, the way you speak to them, the things that they hear from you, whether it's through prayer, through everyday dialogue, and the experience that you share with them, the memories that you make for them. That's everyday things, whether it's the little things, the big things, all of that influences them as a person. And they'll remember all of that, and they take that with them. It builds their character. And so that's always been what I've honed in on. And so when we talk about prevention and education efforts, that's really where it begins. Our homes, our families are the microcosm of the larger society. So if we really want to make an impact, that's the place where we have the greatest amount of influence. In our homes, to the people that we have in our home. That's our spouse, that's our children, our grandchildren. And so as parents, as grandparents, I encourage every one of you to continue to do all those things that build those positive and strong home environments. Because in terms of risk factors, we're talking about education, employment, having homes. If we can set our children on that path where they will have all of that, that they'll excel in schools, that they'll excel in careers, that they'll build professions, that they'll have a home, that they'll have a means to supporting their children when they do have children, that they'll have stable marriages. All of that is really what will turn the tides on a lot of these things. It does take a lot of education, and sometimes that means taking it upon yourself to research some of these things and to learn all that you can about the definitions of what they mean. And especially when it comes into things that go into the criminal justice system. What are the criteria for certain things? Why is it that certain things never get prosecuted? Why certain things are sentenced the way they are? And those are important things to know. And so just remember all of that throughout the whole month of April. And so again, for listening to me. And then as President said, yes, we do have a roundtable discussion. First Lady Biden wants to have that discussion with women. And I have invited Amber Crotty, Council Delegate Crotty, to the table, so she'll be there with us. And it does take people like her to keep such topics as this in the forefront. And then it takes people from multidisciplinary areas of society to work on these things together. So in those efforts, we will continue to pursue those. So thank you again for being here.
Do yate ben she ya Delegate Paul Biggie in Shiga. Ado o ya banat nasha kaibi todo tona helli tsana pansabatkin lechi ado beshkakit tsadesh kijin tena enslin do bi bitkoi bashin ado todachi dash anin ledat Sexual assault prevention واليego ايدة تشبانيت هات ايدش اولية جوهينتزن Hashin soko yati ba yasiniki belhideti ebini na yan hitna do yashi. Sexual assault prevention. Kitchen ba lehi eti the neck etchiko isn etel wal yesha. Do it od nebelchtes delo ol yeta. Nikita net o hayun hinikon ta kai. Le had sheep nantahan an hiko en hitra ke hollogo at. The net o hot egon sakisi nike hollogo at. Isn't o this wal ye. Ajinko ot egon sakisi. Do yat ehon sakisi. Hinikin ta kaiko at. The Barnate the Sexual Assault Prevention Committee. Oshamba Henson, Naha large at the Sata. The Connect Ashi Archer, Bishmas Anabetsana, Nelgo A. Kotego A. Archer, Ben Dale Nish. Okolashi Ani, Cornet at Kia, Ingo Okot Ego, Antana. Let me tell the ba di cha go ba ya sin ge betelia ha ni go jo e ba han ne di shin ge o ba si ti o do ha jo ba hui ne da ha jo ba han ne a e bi ke di ti di do na do ni sa pe ni ye e kot e go shne shik e do sh ne hala ne ni ke a we na ai a kot za Oko oba hacho paako. Ahonne. Da akohot in hoshenta. Betinate di tilt open natil nish. Do ak abenil nishot ya. Do ba yasenda. Okot ego eti bahanne do lesh nitzen. Ashine lanshin nikite nedon hek e kot okot abetil ya. Oko oya yata nizzen. Ba yasin gishtil ya danzo, ba mado bejeda doichalneta, but sheba masan, benalla, but tap on my yasin the doichalneta. Diki yit on lineage yahodonis, Joe Equinson. Salab Bahalon, no wheat ahi Bahalon or this Betziliki, Jun he a barnate. Okotie ya Gina Narede the next cake. Da ya hat ila benia or Talata no Sinigi jo a da benia. They had she anzad a hot a but had a cadetin hinnik hollow. Hohak Haran has anget and by yo now. A cut out the neto yat ehon saki siki hollow. Ebony na ya Ado ba. Ado ya hasan na joba ta hosna sada kot egot e yabek etikle ma ai de pehashi ya na halo kot ego kon ni ki hollong ot etne do de ne das sanen de kot ni akot egon sakki sigi hollo akoshik edo shitna ti hajo ban sita kes Satin hin not a cohort zago, a cohort in go battosne. Adot on the nosh en Hala a cubet yaki binnet bataha. Ye can dark, you need not awkward eo died car. You need not sage at the car. As it's a 9 sage at the car. Hat illa hale zago away a cut zag a cut. Dan of Sinshila, Joba Yasini Beninato Yahalneta. A Koye Hajo, Amdo Genoslini, a Kenoslini in Hansola, Hajobe Benat Notin, Aho one has Agi. A cohort Zagda, Nikijo cohort in Bahosneta, but of Nobichi Yadaski. Dear Consconich has seat or less. Doba Yasenda. So da kot egot e pa wheel now do near Madonna Jada baby wheel now. So la wheel now. Erota pa ultra wheel now. So da kot egot that e abek at the detail edo shitna. kohe konso in hicha hassi dolel aro tigin hilta hollo dolel kehe
Yat bene ade da isnol tsagi aron da ade da ho the awareness of the sexual assault awareness and prevention ko awat ego akodo dashin tsako pendashi ade ilte o la ade da o penda ade da koden da ne kai kan da ne kai ko hot I just would like to extend my appreciation to the work group, to the subcommittee that is formulated within the Navajo Nation Council. Ako aje bitanasha ki yada shintago yidahwe do benahat ya date don da dadit ako ni kodishrige ni tate dahadlo do ni tate hot ya dahadlo ako ni konche ki yani an baya kyo I see biji dahadlo do da kol ya la in do da jol ako bab national ego adit is not throughout the web and Facebook and so forth, social media. Want to أمانو خيني أجانو خيني أتشي مصن النالة التاء أما يجنو خيني أني خيني هي غدون هز أرو هت إيغو هجو بابنا التينو دنيات تسيدو دكها بيغا هاف نابان جغاغو كو هت يلتسيهو شماتو شجاه هت إندا نيخلة شك كواش شي هت إندا نيخلة بن دوبن سكيس بي الله هت أدخني أدي أهله. Whether it's to the issue of sexual assault, whether it's to the issue of alcoholism, or whether it's to the issue of family abuse. It comes from the home. Legal na o yube open do jet dust na whether it's to the sexual assault to nanjo shige that dan Flagstaff train what on the it's very fortunate to she twitch son is had she not had not I don't know I don't know she I call banish it's not all of these things that are taking the nation is a solution to start from home for the dinner table. What the dito I don't join ya which is the sto big a how what little they think that's normal. Hajo the other that just show even bayash hitler even is not nash those of you that hear my words start at the dinner table. What the you went to school in Harvard. Even you go to school in Harvard and you have behaviors that your brain at home environment. You show the reflection of your mother and father and your grandparents and your relatives. Imagine lean. دي أرو صورة شجنا كايدنا توجت لينين شلا نانش أجل كابا هاب شين دو لوك at نادا شيء تونا نستز دي بيش ما هس أن شلون يكودو كودين خانية تاهو تزنج بيش ما هس أن قد يهيجي بناتش أو هت أيغو بحسيتو باهينسن أديت هشين تاهو أدو شما كودو أرون دا كودو يلحنا هاس تخانيجي يتهوي دون دات أني دنات يبن دو بتجي يناب داس تلتشي يناتي كا دا إيهو أدان صداكيس هليت إيغو لا بن دو بتجي بسنها دو جون لين بخاهر دو نيل to get them back to that decent state, to allow them to think of themselves as a decent human being. But now hobetil koko sani hobetil koko ata yahasent o inzen ya enslint nego hot di ne ago inna khago shin ego ko binatna azay indi ahla hot ko tishneta nela hakonda hajo han do han sakhes jo yego bitzil ate ajil ko ate ajil بكاش دتلي ني هو نيل somewhere you can overcome this and you find that mind and will to power to overcome this it's a beautiful morning here in Winter Rock
So we'll conclude. The Navajo Nation Council is set to start. I want to thank President Nez, Vice President Leiser. We know with this American Rescue Prevention Act, it's historic. And what we can bring is not only economic development and infrastructure, but we could bring the public safety that our people deserve. An internet broadband service that could help with communications and healing together and demonstrating as leadership that we could work together for the betterment of the Navajo Nation. So for all of you online, take care of yourself. With your children, call them, text them, let them know that you love them today. Even if you're 60 years old, it's always nice to know that someone loves you. And if nobody told you today, I want to tell you this morning, I love you. You were in our prayers. And as we walked up here, we brought all of you with us. We brought every person who we could think of, who we thought of, and we want you to be healed. So, thank you, my people. We'll see you soon.